for particular groups of voters.
No.
I remember there was a Labour MP who came down to High Wycombe in 1995, just before the 1997 elections, vote Labour and we'll sort out all the problems in Kashmir. Woot! Quite a lot of people voted Labour. I haven't noticed a great improvement in the situation in Kashmir over 10 years, so it's very important not to overpledge. But I think if I were looking first time at this election coming up, for an Asian background, I think there would be three particular things that would interest me. One is the whole debate going on at the moment about the family and marriage. If you've been following politics in recent weeks, very clear difference opening up between the main political parties on support in the tax system and elsewhere for marriage. And marriage as an institution is very important to my Muslim constituents. I've been to one Muslim wedding, or a part of it, at the mosque. Muslim weddings seem to go on for a very long time. But I know that marriage and the family is an absolutely crucial issue for my Asian Muslim constituents, and it will be for voters. Second, tax. And there's a very important point here. The Muslim population in Britain is disproportionately young. Something like a third of it is under the age of 16. Something like half is under the age of 25. You think ahead in future years, increasingly the tax burden is going to fall on a growing proportion of young Asian Muslim voters. They're going to be paying a large part of the tax burden to support everyone else. They therefore will have a special interest in getting tax down and keeping it low, which is our primary aim in tax policy, even though it's going to be different with the election. Finally, schools. This may be a controversial view, but one of the things we are going to do is enormously free up the possibility for new schools. And new schools will include faith schools, and faith schools will include some Islamic schools. I have no problem whatsoever, I don't think politicians should, with Muslim schools funded by the taxpayer. There are Catholic schools, Church of England schools, Jewish schools. Muslim schools should be treated in exactly the same way. And under a Conservative government, you'll see lots more new schools, and I hope that there'll be more than the present 7 that there are in the state sector. And finally, just a quick word about foreign affairs, because Mahbub mentioned what's really been one of the big political events of this week, which has been Tony Blair's evidence in the Iraq inquiry. Now, lots of people say, and there's some truth in it, if we have a change in government, there won't be a massive change in foreign policy. In some ways, that's true. If you look at the Kashmir issue, which I've taken a really big interest in over 8 years, to resolve the Kashmir issue, you need, right at the start, some sort of dialogue between India and Pakistan. Pakistan at the moment is not in a very good state. And I've always thought the key role of the British government is to get its act together and keep prodding the Americans to prod the Indians, because India is the key to all this, to ensure that India and Pakistan, India has got the incentive to sit down at the table, and that Kashmiris in some way are represented at that conference table. Pakistan and India can't simply do it over the heads of the Kashmiris. And my own view is that while I've no difficulty at all in India having a place on the Security Council, I do think it's essential to make some progress on the Kashmir issue before that actually happens. A much bigger point about foreign policy. What will be different is this. What really went wrong since 2001, since 9/11, the Iraq War and all the rest of it, is really very simple. What happened was that the Foreign Office, which is the guardian of expertise in foreign policy, just got shoved aside when it came to the Iraq War. Proper cabinet government and consultation again got pushed aside. The cabinet never got shown legal advice. There was never a proper discussion in cabinet about the legal advice. And finally, we forgot the importance of following your own national interest rather than easily stepping alongside someone else's. And this will be different. Under a Conservative government, the Foreign Office is going to be very important again, and the Foreign Office is a repository of wisdom on subjects like the Middle East. There'll be a Security Council, the Foreign Secretary will chair it. Second, once again, you're going to have proper cabinet government. We're not going to have the days of Blair, where people go into rooms, sit on sofas, the civil servants aren't there, No one's there to make a note of the conversation. And finally, we will once again be following our own national interest. We won't simply be marching instead with the President of the United States for the sake of it. So there are lots of good reasons to vote Conservative. Actually, Ilford South here, probably the best one is in this room. The simple truth is I think Toby will work very hard on your behalf. He will be a diligent constituency member of Parliament. He will listen to your concerns. That's the main reason for voting Conservative on it. Yeah, I think it will be made, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have heard quite interesting conversation. If the time allowed, he could have, I'm sure, carry on and enlighten us quite other good things. But time is quite short, and I would like to call our friend, Mr. Toby Butcher, who will be our prospective Member of Parliament, and my prayers are with him to win next week. Toby Butcher.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gilani, and thank you everyone for coming here. I think I know more or less everyone in this room, and I'm not going to give a long speech because I want to come around and talk to everyone here individually and hear what you've got to say too. Thank you very much, Paul, for coming here and sharing what you had to say with all of our friends here. Thank you, Mahbub, as well. Thank you, both Mahboubs. One thing that Mahbub mentioned and that Paul mentioned was the Chilcot inquiry that's going on at the moment into Iraq, and this idea of cabinet government. And one thing that I thought was very striking yesterday, we didn't expect to find out a great deal from Tony Blair, did we? We got his great Oscar-winning performance. He'll win the Oscars, if not the Nobel Peace Prize. But one very striking moment was he was asked about the Attorney General's view about the legality of the war in Iraq, and why didn't the Cabinet discuss it? And he said the Cabinet weren't interested in discussing it. And I want to know what those people sitting around that Cabinet table thought they were there for, and what their job was. And whatever's going to happen, if, as I hope, we get a Conservative government in at the next election, I hope the quality of the people we will have sitting around that cabinet table will change, and they will take seriously questions like that, and will take seriously their jobs and will do their jobs properly. I've been a candidate here now for 2 years. That's why I know lots of you, it's why lots of you know me. I know that Mr. Gilani and Mahbub Chowdhury have been taking me around the mosques, which I've really appreciated, and I've seen so much good work there. A little while ago I was at the Seven Kings Mosque, and I saw the teaching rooms there, and that really interested me because we're told that children can't concentrate now, and that children have to have interactive education. I saw some wonderful old-fashioned education going on there, and I think in terms of discipline and authority, there's a lot there that the rest of the country can learn from. Just last weekend I was out in Cranbrook Ward, the ward that Gary here and Mahbub and Ashok represent. I was out there Sunday afternoon, and someone said to me, an old-fashioned socialist said to me, look around here. This area is never going to be Conservative again. This isn't a Conservative area anymore, it's changed. And I think what he meant was, because it's now probably a majority non-white area, it's necessarily a no-go zone for the Conservatives. Well, I think that man knows very little about Ilford South. He knows very little about the Conservative Party, because our values like liberty under the law, valuing education, valuing faith and voluntary work, putting the family, as Paul said, at the heart of society, those aren't the private property of some narrow group in our society. They're what unite all of us. And I'm ready to go out and prove that old socialist wrong and get in, and I hope get in with your support, but I do need practically your support. I need you to come out and join me on the streets, go out and convince people, because after 13 years of Labour government, after all those easy slogans, all those broken promises, people do need inspiring, and it's up to us to get out there and knock on people's doors and tell them that we're going to make a difference. So I'd very much like you to come on and help me with that.